Okay, hello everyone. Mr. Boff here. I wanted to go through thesis statements. I mentioned about making a particular video, and any opportunity to wear this microphone, obviously, I would immediately take. So thesis statements. That's going to be the topic today. That's what we're examining, and we're thinking about this specifically, I suppose, in terms of Lord of the Flies. So, begs the question: what's a thesis statement? We may need to remind ourselves. Thesis statements, as you can see detailed on the screen, thesis statements offer an argument, your view in response to the question. The weakest student responses when they receive in this case, Lord of the Flies extract and essay question, the weakest student responses take that merely as an opportunity to dump on the page everything they know about Lord of the Flies with little regard or thought about how that information, all of their knowledge about Lord of the Flies, relates to the specific requirements of the question. The very best student essays recognize that the whole purpose of essay writing as a form is to put forward or advance a thesis. That is, essay writing exists to make an argument, to put forward your view with a whole load of evidence, textual evidence in the form of quotation in this example, a whole load of evidence to back up, this is my view about the relationship between Piggy and Ralph. Or this is my reasoned view and argument about, I don't know, democracy and the threat of dictatorship and autocracy in Lord of the Flies. You need to have really thought through the novel and make sure that you've got your kind of argumentative pieces all lined up so that you demonstrate to the examiner that you've really thought through and have reflected upon key characters, key themes, and therefore are then able to advance a really coherent, thoughtful argument in response. One way that we can demonstrate that we've done all of that is making sure that we can summarize our view, our response, our argument into a thesis statement. And we're looking at a couple of sentences at the start of the essay that will effectively form the introduction. And you'll use that to form the introduction and then to really give the examiner a really clear idea of where your essay is going. It gives your essay, as it says there, not just serving as an introduction, it gives it a trajectory, a path for you to follow. Because obviously, if you write a great thesis statement, essay opener, introduction, you're saying, this is my view, and the rest of the essay necessarily then has to connect and reinforce and support and argue that particular viewpoint. So we're going to have a look at what this looks like. I'm going to sort of narrate the process of actually producing the thesis statement, sort of think through it out loud, talk through what's going on in my head, where I'm getting my ideas from and so on, in order to help you. So that's what a thesis statement is. We're going to be examining this particular essay style question, exam style question, I should say. So the question is, or task, write about the relationship between Ralph and Jack and how it's presented in the whole novel, okay, in the extract and of course in the whole novel. We're going to be thinking about the whole novel in this example. Obviously, we would have, when it comes to the exam, we would also have the extract to examine. Right, let's move back to the visualizer. There we go. And let's have a look at this. So, relationship between Jack and Ralph, that's what we're thinking about. This is what we're examining. Okay, so what we've got here, two key characters. We're not thinking about them individually, though. We're thinking about them in connection to one another. Obviously, the clue there is a word, the relationship between them. Okay, so first off, all I'm going to do really quickly, okay, is think, what do I know about their relationship? And I'm just going to kind of do this live. So what do I know about the relationship between Ralph and Jack? Well, I know that the relationship changes over time. In fact, we can probably be more precise. We know that it deteriorates over time. We can say, therefore, if it deteriorates and it changes over time, that it is, I would argue, inherently unstable. And then I'm thinking, well, okay, if I think it's inherently unstable, why do I think it's inherently unstable? I'm now asking myself the question, well, Alex, why do you think that? Okay, and I'm challenging myself. That's really important. Why is it inherently unstable? Well, what we've got is we've got the question of power and authority. Authority, and I'm also thinking about leadership. There's no way that I can write an essay about Jack and Ralph and write a really convincing thesis statement. There's no way I can do that without mentioning, power, authority, leadership. But their tensions, I should say, the tensions in the relationship. I'm going to write down the word tensions because I think that's an important word. I like that word. I'm going to probably try and include it somewhere. What do the tensions reveal? Or to put it a different way, and I'm thinking now, well, I know that Lord of the Flies is an allegorical novel. I know that Ralph is democratically elected, even though there are serious shortcomings and issues with his election. It's not without its problems. I know that Jack usurps power. And I know really, therefore, that we've got this tension between democracy and on one hand, and then on the other hand, we could say that Jack in some ways represents autocratic or tyrannical power. By that I mean the kind of misuse of power. There is also this word that we've looked at a number of times already, and I've messaged some people on Synergy about this word. The demagogue. Jack as demagogue. I think that's kind of interesting. I'm interested in this word tensions. I'm thinking through, well, okay, so there are tensions in their relationship, and I'm saying that their relationship is inherently unstable. I'm also saying their relationship changes, and I can probably be a bit more precise. I can say it deteriorates, it gets worse over time. It doesn't start off in a terrible state. But there are tensions. What are those tensions over? Well, they're over power, authority, and leadership. But what would we say is the kind of, I'm thinking now, well, where do those tensions flare up, or where are those tensions most obvious, or where are those tensions most kind of manifestly clear to the reader? And obviously, we've got the tension over fire and hunting. I'll be more precise. I'll write signal fire. Okay, so we've got this tension between maintaining the signal fire, and that is really the connection to civilization, and then hunting, which is a kind of bestial pleasure in violence. Okay, there are other tensions as well. I do think that we're probably going to have to talk about tensions again in their relationship as it connects to the character of Piggy. I don't want the essay to turn into an essay about Piggy, but there are tensions in their relationship, between Jack and Ralph over the treatment and role and position of Piggy. As Ralph's relationship with Jack deteriorates, so simultaneously or at the same time, Ralph's relationship with Piggy deepens or becomes kind of richer and closer. There are also tensions in the relationship between Jack and Ralph over not just the signal fire and hunting. There are also tensions over leadership, and particularly kind of Ralph attempting to overcome those tensions. And we want to use this quite loaded word, his attempts to appease Jack. We're thinking very early on quiet hunters. But then by the end, we've got the complete deterioration of the relationship to the point of Ralph being hunted. Now, in the exam, what we would do is we would take this as kind of step further, and in the exam, we might do something like this, probably not as detailed because we won't have time, but at the same time as making these kind of notes and getting our ideas in order, we'd be also quickly jotting down some quotations that we know, okay? So the quotations would need to go somewhere along here or connected to some of these key moments. So we've got Ralph being hunted, and effectively Ralph utterly isolated and alone, whilst at the same time Jack adopting the role of total chief in this kind of autocratic, horribly kind of violent, tyrannical, dictatorial sort of leadership that he has at the end of the novel. So we've got loads of ideas here. One thing that I think that we probably also want to think about, which connects to this down here, is think about what Golding is seeking to articulate and what Golding is seeking to convey, because bear in mind, of course, at all times that Lord of the Flies is an allegorical novel. It's a novel that has rich political and kind of moral readings or interpretations, and the book definitely sort of responds well to an allegorical reading, that Ralph and Jack are Ralph and Jack, but they also perhaps represent a set of political ideas, a set of moral positions, we might even say. Right, let's have a think then about how we're going to word some of this. So let's go to Word. Okay, and let's open a new Word document. I'm just going to think about typing this up now, whilst the computer slowly thinks about it. Hopefully it's getting a move on, and you can see that okay. There we are. Great. Okay, so I've got all of my notes. What you can't see on the screen is I've got all of my notes that we've literally just made together. Let me sort my margins out, and then we can crack on. Okay, so we're going to write the thesis statement. Relationship between Ralph and Jack. Okay, so this is going to be probably about 3 sentences. I don't want to spend lots of time on this, or too much time, I should say. And I'm not going to include quotations because this isn't going to be an analytical paragraph. This is me setting out my thesis, my view. So I'm going to say something like, in Golding's allegorical novel, Lord of the Flies. I'll just pop that here because it's a title. The tensions between Ralph and Jack are ultimately let's try that again, irreconcilable. That is, they can't be reconciled. There's no way of sort of overcoming them. Their relationship is let's think really carefully. Their relationship is dominated by questions of power, leadership, and authority on the island. Despite Ralph's attempts at appeasement, and we'd come into this in the essay in more detail, when he offers Jack the role of, let's put, when he offers Jack the control of the hunters, Jack's bestial, in fact, no, that doesn't quite make sense. Jack's yearning for power and the opportunity for, or opportunities for, violence and subjugation it offers. So let's just read that back, just make sure I'm following our sentence. So despite Ralph's attempts at appeasement when he offers Jack the control of the hunters, Jack's yearning for power and the opportunities for violence and subjugation it offers can never be satisfied. We may read their relationship as a conflict between democratic order and tyrannical autocracy. Jack's, I'll put this in inverted commas, victory and descent into mindless and murderous violence causes us to reflect upon the precarious and vulnerable nature of democracy itself. Okay, let's have a think about what we've done here then. I'll just make that a bit smaller. Okay, so in Golding's allegorical novel, Lord of the Flies, the tensions between Ralph and Jack are ultimately irreconcilable, so they can't be solved. Their relationship is dominated by questions of power, leadership, and authority on the island. Despite Ralph's attempts at appeasement when he offers Jack the control of the hunters, Jack's yearning for power and the opportunities for violence and subjugation it offers can never be satisfied. We may read their relationship as a conflict between democratic order and tyrannical autocracy. Jack's victory, and it is only a sort of partial victory because, of course, doesn't kill Ralph and the boys are rescued. But Jack's victory and descent into mindless and murderous violence causes us to reflect upon the precarious and vulnerable nature of democracy itself. So that's a thesis statement which really stresses the kind of allegorical reading of the novel. And you may wish to do that. You might also wish to just focus much more intently on the fact that their relationship deteriorates, that Jack is kind of violent and cruel, that Ralph is kind of cruel and at least immature at the beginning of the novel, but gradually over the course of the novel recognizes that Piggy is a sort of, is wise, true friend, as it says at the end of the book, and is the sort of most valuable member of the group, along with Simon to a lesser extent, and that Jack is the sort of real problem on the island. You might want to have a thesis statement that kind of focused much more closely on that. But I do think that given Lord of the Flies is such an allegorical novel, has these sort of political and moral lessons to teach us about the nature of humankind and humanity, that needs to feature in your thesis statement. It's short. I've tried to keep it short. You'll notice a couple of other things. Obviously, I've got relationship in here. I want to make sure the word relationship is noted down at least a couple of times to show that I've thought very closely about the question. I'm focused on the terms of the question. And just always a little reminder as well to remember that some tentative language, like we may read, there are other readings of the novel. You can respond to it in different ways, but one reading, so we may read their relationship as a conflict between democratic order and tyrannical autocracy. That's a perfectly valid, sort of defensible reading. Lots of high level kind of academic language here, really precise. Again, very important when we produce thesis statements. We want to show the examiner we know our stuff. We're being precise. It's academic. We're kind of demonstrating we can adopt that sort of language, and we can be precise and academic in our thesis statements. We're going to be practicing this over a number of lessons. It's a challenging skill to take all of these big ideas that we've got, and you can see we didn't get absolutely everything down because we need some material left over for the actual essay itself. But this is a good start. This gives me a plan and a trajectory, a course of action, a series of steps along the way where I'm going to work my way through the novel now, thinking about their relationship at the beginning, particularly the kind of mistreatment of Piggy and the dismissal of Piggy, and Ralph kind of siding with Jack, that strange invisible light of friendship that the narrator tells us exists between the two of them when they're gathering firewood. And then I'm going to kind of move through the course of the novel, picking on key moments where their relationship deteriorates, the tensions become very clearly irreconcilable to the point where, obviously, by the novel's close, Jack wants Ralph's head, just like the pig, wants Ralph's head on a sharpened stick. So I hope this has been useful. Thank you for watching.